Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Hygon with us. A brief introduction of Dr. Hygon. He has done his bachelor's in biochemistry, biochemistry honors, masters in biochemistry from University of Venda. For PhD in molecular biology and infectious disease immunology, he attended Stellenbosch University in Western Cape, South Africa. For postdoc, as he attended Wellcome Center for Infectious Disease Research in Africa, also called as CIDRI Africa, at the University of Cape Town, and also worked as scientific officer at Hutchinson Center Research Institute of South Africa, Cape Town. Presently, he's a specialist scientist in South African Medical Research Council, also known as SAMRC. With this brief introduction, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Hygon, for taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you for that good introduction.
We always start our conversation with a question that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
So for me, it's a bit of, I don't know if it's unconventional, but yeah, it was not from the get-go when I was in high school that I knew I wanted to be a researcher. Because when I was in high school, I was not really exposed to the, post-degree life. So all I knew was you go to university, you get a degree, you get a job, and you start earning money. But then when I enrolled for my bachelor's after my matric, I went to the University of Venda. I enrolled for biochemistry and biology because I enjoyed life sciences and a bit of chemistry in the physical science part of things. So I enjoyed chemistry more. Then I chose biochemistry and biology because I just thought it was a combination of both. I was not very good with numbers, so I kind of ran away from anything that had to do with maths and physics. But unfortunately, I had to do, first year physics and maths as it's an entry level for everyone. So then when I did the bachelor's, while I was completing my bachelor's, obviously when I got into university, I started realizing, okay, there's more, postgraduate levels, honors, master's, PhD. So when I was completing my bachelor's, I decided I just want to study and finish studying, then I can go into work. And also now when I was thinking of research going forward, because coming from a rural area, kind of saw diseases that were curable or manageable, taking away our loved ones. And then I thought maybe I can get into work or research that has to do with infectious diseases diseases and just help the health of our people as a whole. And that's how I was drawn into infectious disease research. That's basically it.
So you mentioned that at initial days, which is when you said unconventional, that is most of us who landed up in research, it was not planned. There are few dedicated researchers who have planned even before their high school that this is what they want to do. So let's start with the journey of joining PhD. Before signing up for PhD, did you have any research experience or exposure to research so that you know that what you are getting yourself into?
So for my master's, I think I would say for my master's, that's where my research exposure came about because I did biochemistry, so there was a lot of lab work. There was a lot of lab work. I was in the lab almost every day during my master's times. So that's how I saw, okay, research is good. I mean, it was not clinical that time when I was doing my master's, but we were working with malarial proteins. And obviously, when you write the story as a whole. You start from the host and the vector, the carrier and everything, and how we're working towards looking for drug targets. And obviously now you start thinking health-wise and you're helping the community, helping the nation. So I was like, oh, okay, this is good. So I was exposed to research during my master's level, but during my honors, it was a bit of a group work type of thing. So there was not really much of research, but I had it in my head that I just want to go from degree to PhD without actually entering the work area, because once I started working, I feared that I wouldn't have the capacity to now go back to school and do both like while working, because obviously you cannot leave a job and go to school full time. It's not very easy to do that. So yeah, I did have some background for my master's, but obviously before that there was really no background. But yeah, my master's introduced me to research before I joined the PhD. And for the PhD, I actually moved provinces. I moved from, because I did everything, the BSc to the master's, I did that in one university, one institution. And then I moved to a different institution, which is kind of, I don't know if it's a better institution, I guess, for lack of better words, Yeah, and then they were doing clinical research. So I got more interested in that, and they were working with TB, and I saw the project was good. So I had an opportunity to go to a different university to continue with what I was doing for my master's, or come to Stellenbosch University, where I was going to do something completely new. And I figured it's best to go and learn something new rather than continue with what I already know. So I opted to go to Stellenbosch University, and yeah, that's how I got into the TB field and worked a bit on that for my PhD. Yes.
So it was the research focus which made you switch first, and then the second one was obviously that if you have some well-funded programs, that is also a motivation behind attending one institution over the other and make it easier. So let's start with the process. What was the biggest challenge you faced when you were applying for PhD?
Challenge applying for PhD. So well, I wanted to do a PhD, so I wanted to continue. At first, I was not really well expanded, so I just knew my institution. I had visited other institutions. During my master's, I had visited the University of Pretoria, which is like maybe 500-600 kilometers away from the institution that I was attending. And I was there for a research visit in a lab where I did some of the research work in. Then I knew I wanted to do a PhD. I was willing to continue with my supervisor then. But as we were writing, I guess things kind of fell off a bit. When I was writing my master's, I could see the relationship was not as good as it was in the beginning also. And I know a PhD is a bit of a long investment. So I didn't want to now sign up for something that would probably end up maybe having a fall off now during the PhD. So I decided it's time for me to look for opportunities elsewhere. Luckily, it wasn't very difficult, honestly, for me to get into a PhD. Like I said, I had two options. I had either the University of KwaZulu-Natal, which is another university here. It's also a great university, and then the Stellenbosch University option. But then I also looked at the PI. The PI that side at UKZN, he was still fairly new, but he was doing similar things to what I did for my master's. Then when I looked at the PI on the other side at Stellenbosch, he was also still fairly new, but he had good funding, and he was also doing a research that I had no knowledge of. It was something completely new. So I opted to go for the something new to learn and maybe broaden my horizon. And yeah, I'm glad I chose that path instead. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is for all the audience listening to this conversation, that there should be few key ingredients whenever you are looking for your PhD opportunities for PhD, either in your country or abroad. That the research focus should be something which you are passionate about, which really you want to do. And the second, how well funded the lab is. There are more than that, but these are the two important ones which you should keep in mind when you are applying, and always prepare your letters or draft them accordingly so that there is a clear sync that what you want to do and what the lab is already working on has some overlap in there. So now, Dr. Hygon, when you started the PhD, from start to the end, how can you summarize that journey?
Oof. Yeah, no, it's not very easy to summarize that, but I mean, it was there was a lot of learning opportunities and moments of disappointments, obviously, and patience needed. But yeah, overall, obviously now that it's done, I mean, I can say overall it was great. But honestly, yeah, there was a few challenges. There was a few challenges when I started. Like I said, it was a completely new field. So I had to do a lot of reading just to understand what the field was about and what the research that I was going to do for my PhD was all about also. Because I was coming in as a student in part of a very big project that was working with around 5, 6 countries. So I had to be able to also speak to our international partners, obviously with the assistance of my supervisors because they are the PIs of the project. But at the end of the day, I had to run the part that was for my PhD, and I had to liaise, got some samples in the central lab where we could do the analysis and run the analysis. And for some of the analysis, I ended up having to find collaborators myself. In order for me to complete my PhD, I had to speak to other people to go and do some techniques in their lab in a collaborative manner. And then, at the end, we even published on that. So it was also another learning curve, because if I had waited, I feel like my PhD could have added more years than it did. Yes, so you have to be resourceful also as a PhD student. You don't have to rely with your supervisor only. So this thing of networking and collaboration is very important. So that's where I also drew inspiration from when I was doing my PhD, and I'm glad I got to talk to people when I went to meetings. And that's how, when you're complaining about something taking too long this side, and then someone says, oh no, we actually do that in our lab. I can contact you with someone, and then you guys can talk about the project and see how you can take it from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of those scientific meetings, conferences, they're the best place to initiate those new collaborations. As you mentioned, when you're discussing your challenges and developing that niche is what we are all working towards. STEM for Society is dedicated to help researchers facing any kind of problem, either it is theoretical, experimental, with these researcher celebrities like you are in here. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, they can write to you. And then we also run this mentor mentee program, because with the technology now, it is so easier to be in touch with anyone globally in like real time. You can explain your problems, have the solutions. As you mentioned, if you are stuck with something for a longer time, and then in these scientific meetings, when you're explaining it, somebody says like, oh, I do that on a regular basis, and if you want, we can just collaborate and then work. And that's how I think now the field of research is going to be more and more interdisciplinary, because people from different expertise come together and then solve a common problem. Speaking of which, when you mentioned that you were working in a project which has like 5 or 6 countries collaborating towards, how difficult was that to navigate your path? Because when there are more than 2 or 3 collaborators involved, there is not very smooth ride for the project most of the times.
Yeah, no, that is very true. And also, it was challenging for me. I mean, I come from a very small village here in South Africa, in Venda, Limpopo. It's a bit of far away from everything. And then to come to a big institution like Stellenbosch University, and then all of a sudden I'm talking to people from different countries. I had never left South Africa really that time, I've been like just around, so local boy. And then now you're talking to people in different countries, in different continents also. So it was challenging, but luckily the consortium that I became a part of was of people who are very well responsive. When I was communicating with the people, they would direct you to the right person to talk to, or the person who's responsible for that project. So the challenges were mostly challenges will be coming from myself. When it was time for progress meetings, and I would have to present now in front of all those people, or we would travel to one of the sites, and I would have to give a progress on my part of the project. And now also speaking in front of people, every time, everyone, I mean, most people anyway, some people are very good at speaking in front of people. But even now, I've been speaking in front of people for years now, but I still get that, the nervousness beforehand. And yeah, so that was probably the biggest challenge. But when it came to liaising and coordinating everything regarding the project, it was honestly kind of a smooth sail. I think the collaboration was very, very well worked. But I know what you're talking about with the challenges. I mean, we do face that now, like now, because I'm now like a PI, and we have to deal with your collaborators. Sometimes you have to follow up multiple times. But again, it's also because people are busy. They're not sitting and
Yes.
waiting on your email. People are busy with other things. So you gotta be understanding when you are working with the colleagues and the collaborators, and just be patient and yeah, be persistent if you need to, because
Absolutely.
sometimes, depending also on the level of the collaboration, as you know how it
Mm-hmm.
is with
Yeah.
collaboration, sometimes maybe you are benefiting more than they are.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, so there's also that sometimes, not all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then I for one would, whenever I have a chance, if someone I'm collaborating with or working with, sends me something, I try to get to it as quick as possible. But like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm sure even with you, our communication, sometimes, things go silent because it is
Yeah.
what it is. People are busy out there. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, it's for my PhD, honestly, the challenges were very, very minor. It was
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, collaborative challenges were honestly very minor. I think that project was well coordinated and well designed and ran by, when you are funded by big funders also, the sponsors
Mm-hmm.
need to see the work progressing. Yeah. So
That's great to hear. So after the PhD, when you were about to submit or defend your thesis, you already had a roadmap planned, or how did that next step go?
roadmap was planned in my head, but in reality, it was not really there. So again, with that, I had a similar challenge. I wouldn't say the relationship was broken with my supervisors. It wasn't, but when I brought up the postdoc thing, you can hear the responses of someone that is enthusiastic about one staying
Mm-hmm.
on, and the responses of someone that is not sure. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
when once I start hearing that hesitation, and obviously this is my future also, so I need to
Mm-hmm.
be. I'm one person who also likes being where I feel like I'm wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, change is good, but I still had a lot to learn in that lab, like I did with my masters also. I feel like I could have learned more for my PhD, because obviously there was a project lined up.
Mm-hmm.
For the postdoc part, there was still some work that I could have continued doing. I still had to write up a lot of papers from my PhD work, which I ended up doing even though I left the lab. But then when I wanted to apply, yeah, for the postdoc,
Mm-hmm.
I could hear the talks. Then I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to apply for the postdoc here. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
apply for the postdoc elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied. I applied for a few postdocs. I applied
Mm-hmm.
while I was still writing up my thesis, like before I submitted. Some I got responses. Some I've got unfortunate rejections. I applied for labs also are within the institution that I was doing my PhD. Some of them wanted more senior postdocs, someone who has done a year or two of postdoc beforehand, because I was just going to be like a newbie into the postdoc era. So then I applied also at the UCT, the one I ended up getting. When I applied, the PI responded to say she received my application and it's all good. Then she will review it and get back to me. But also because I was still busy finalizing my thesis, I wasn't pushing that much. I was like, okay, thank you. I will. And then I wrote my thesis, but I knew, okay, that one was a good one because now there was more techniques. It was a continuation with the disease focus, because it was TB, HIV, infectious disease things. So I was like, okay, this one I really like. And that lab I was familiar with because also we collaborated, UCT and Stellenbosch, there are some projects that they collaborate together. And we used to go to that institution to present. It's a neighboring institution. It's, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes away from there, 15, 20 minutes away, the campuses. And I knew a few people there already. So I was like, okay, I would like to actually join here. But then I also applied for lecturing positions. I went for an interview for one lecturing position. I just didn't get for the post. They gave it to someone else. But yeah, that was unfortunate. Then after now submitting my thesis and getting everything, and yeah, after submitting my thesis, I updated the PI that, okay, I have now finalized my thesis, as I said in the application, because when I wrote the application, I wrote everything that I'm still finalizing my thesis, but I'm hoping to submit by October or so. And then by October, I submitted. In November, I told her, okay, I have submitted my thesis, and now I'm waiting for the feedback from the reviewers. And then after that, I do the defense, and I'll be ready to start. There was no response on that, but I didn't push again because I still had to wait for the response because I didn't know how long it was going to take. Then a couple months came, so November, December, I think, yeah. By December, the feedback came, and my defense was scheduled for December, but then it was pushed for January. And after defending, I emailed again. So now, after defending, I'm done with my PhD. I don't have employment. There's no income, and now without income is very difficult. Yeah. Then I emailed again. Then she finally responded, and then they called me for an interview. And because now I completed everything, because I guess for them maybe they were just waiting for me to finish everything since it was so close. Because you can start a postdoc without having graduated your PhD. You could have submitted your thesis. Some institution allow that. Then they give you like a 6 months so that you can produce a certificate or something like that. But yeah, after the defense, finally so that was 2 months of me not having any employment and not being sure where I'm going to go. But I had hope. I had hope, and I was applying for a lot of jobs. I was applying for jobs and postdocs. But I was more interested in the one that I ended up getting. And then when I went for the interview, things went well, and they offered me the position. And that's how it went. Yeah.
So from the academic, postdoc to the scientific officer at Hutchinson Center for Research, how different were they in the role and in capacities where you have used different skill set or learned different things? How was that different?
So the scientific officer position was, I wouldn't say industry. That is a non-profit organization, but they do. They work on clinical trials. Looking at let's just say clinical trial vaccines, looking at the immune responses to those the candidate clinical trial vaccines. Yes. So it's a very strict, audited environment. Unlike the postdoc, obviously, I worked with my PI, we worked with our collaborators. If you have our collaborators, you just have your lab book, you put in your notes, whatever you did, you note it down, but with the other one, it was a very protocolized. You follow the protocol, you follow the SOP to the T, you deviate, you have to write the deviation forms. And I did not stay there for too long because honestly, I ended up missing research. But it was a nice environment. I learned a lot there. I learned, to produce SOPs that are detailed and to follow SOPs to the T. You produce SOPs where you can tick or initiate on each and every step. It became monotonous for me, but it became monotonous. I realized, okay, maybe I'm more for research to also do my own ideas, because there we have ideas that come, you need to test this 1, 2, 3, and then we just figure out the panels and we work with that. But for the techniques, I was using similar techniques that I did for my postdoc. So the reason I got that position was because of the postdoc. So I'm also glad that I went for that postdoc because I learned additional techniques that I did not have for my PhD. And then those techniques gave me the opportunity to go out, I would say, in industry, and then work there and also understand the workings of industry and the strict protocol following. And then I missed research and I started applying for positions in research. And I guess I missed the stress of research when I was out of it. But now that I'm back in, I'm asking myself, what was I missing exactly? because it's not pleasant. It's pleasant, but it's not like, it's not something that you want to go through every single day, but there are good days like anywhere else. So then I learned those techniques that side, and then when I moved back here, also I'm using those skills that I learned in industry to advance my career here and assist those that work with me also. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, based on your experience, what you can share with our audience is that how they can prepare themselves. Like some of them, as you mentioned, some of the researchers like to be in industry, like following the protocols, just no deviation, simply doing it, and doing getting the work done. Whereas some of them are like you, where who like I won't say missing the stress of research, but missing that exploratory part, that where you have an idea and
Ah,
you want to test upon it. So based on your experience, what you can tell them, that how they can prepare or at least try and test themselves, that which is the one they like most.
yeah, so you're right. I mean, the stress is just one thing that I do put as in. Obviously, it's the ideas that you have. Like I said, you wanna run with the ideas that you have and see where those take you and how you can explore further on them. But when you're working in the industry, some of the things you cannot really deviate. You cannot dream of an idea and come and wanna work on it, or read a paper and realize, oh, there's a gap here. Maybe we can look into this and work on this. It's very difficult. It's not that it's not possible, but also I've realized that it depends on people. There are some people, as you say, that really enjoy that, because I had colleagues that I would sit with and I ask, you guys do the same thing every day. They're like, yeah, it's really good for us because when you leave, you are
You're
stress
not facing
free.
any stress.
Once
Yeah.
you leave the office, it's done. You come back
Hmm.
tomorrow, you continue. Or if you have to leave, someone can come and take over from you. You just give them the notes, or you give them, wait, this is where I left off. You continue. And they're
Hmm.
happy with that. There are some people who are happy with that. And I, for one, I was happy with it for a bit. And
Hmm.
then, like, yeah, then the missing of the ideas. And then I just felt like I'm a bit limited here, and I would like to expand more on my learnings also. The more I have these questions and ideas, the more I learn, because you have to read a lot, you have to keep on updating yourself. And yeah, so my advice would be to follow what fulfills you,
Hmm.
follow what fulfills you, because if you're okay with following protocol SOPs, that's also great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you feel like there is something missing, then try finding a position or a place that will cultivate that need that you have for learning more and doing more research and working on your ideas, or your ideas and your colleagues. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think sometimes the way we learn as humans, as researchers, that you are always in the zone where you love it and you think that is the only thing you like it. But when you move these places, that's when you realize that, okay, I probably won't like it, or this is the thing where I really want to be. So sometimes having these shifts also, with the open mindedness, that you are open for the opportunities, whatever comes, you grab it, and then probably realize that either it is for you or it is not for you, and then make the changes. And that's how we keep on progressing. So from the scientific officer to the specialist scientist, this final move in your career, what were you already mentioned that you were missing the research exploratory part of it, so you moved back here. But what were the challenges in getting this position, and the accomplishment which you can share now?
So the challenge is here in South Africa. I'm not sure if it's, yeah, probably maybe in most parts of the world also,
Hmm.
but it's very difficult to get employment.
Yeah,
And
that's
now
true.
it's very difficult to get employment that is kind of specialized. Obviously it becomes smaller and smaller the more you go,
Hmm.
because the when you go for your master's, your PhD, your skills become a bit narrow also, because you cannot do everything.
Hmm.
When you're doing a master's, you focus on a few skills here and there. When you're doing your PhD, it's also a few skills. And then for us, it was obviously, for me, because it was infectious diseases. Sure, you can use those skills in different infectious diseases. The good thing with things like molecular techniques, you can use them, you can apply them differently. But it's very difficult to get the employment. So I had to apply for a lot of positions that had a research component. It was not easy to. I'm not gonna say it was very easy. I just applied for one position and then they called me for the interview and I got the position. But yeah, you apply. Some of them don't even respond.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are job hunting, it's a bit difficult. It's a bit tricky, but it's better to job hunt when you have obviously something, when you are employed, rather than job hunting when you are unemployed, because I
Mm-hmm.
kind of did that during my PhD and I did not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just finding the employment was the major tricky part, or was setback. But then I also, because where I studied my PhD is not far from here. It's across the road. It's literally across the road from here.
Okay.
When I was there, obviously I did dream of, oh, I would really like to work for the South African Medical Research Council. It's a nice company, and they give funding. They funded me for my PhD. So
Mm-hmm.
I really just wanted the full cycle thing, to then, after being a student of them, and then come and work for them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so when I saw the post and I read through it, and I thought, oh, this speaks to me. Let me dust my CV and give it a chance and apply. And I put my all in the application. Obviously, I let my line manager on the other side know what I'm up to. I was not running away, honestly. I had to just be transparent and tell her that, yeah, because you also have to use your people as referees at the end of the day,
Yes.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's no way I'm going to apply for a job and not put my current line manager. Then already
Mm-hmm.
that is a red flag for the next employer. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and luckily they called me, and went through all the necessary things, the interviews, and I got the position. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then um the success thing, I guess, is the skills and also the diversity of it all, because after the PhD, so I'm grateful for the moves. I did move.
Mm-hmm.
I moved from my first institution because I had gotten 3 degrees from there. I didn't want to get all of my degrees from one institution.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved to a different institution to also learn different cultures, learn how other people work, different cultures in the labs and different environments, and how to work with other people. Like, then I got opportunities to travel overseas, which I'm not saying I may not have gotten on the other side. Maybe I would
Mm-hmm.
have, but I would never know now. But I'm glad that I moved. And then also the move from my PhD to my postdoc, and then
Mm-hmm.
moving from academia to a bit of industry, that also gave me, I guess, a good luck push when I
Mm-hmm.
applied. It added some weight to my CV, because also the skills that I learned there, and yeah, also those working in accredited labs, with all those strict protocols that we have to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Mm-hmm.
also something that I come with, and because once you learn it, you stay with it. Yes, so
Absolutely. As they say that no experiences goes waste. If you have learned something, it will at some point of time help you in a bigger way. At least when you are doing it, you think it is not of any use, but because of a researcher, you know that you have developed your toolkit in a way that at some point of time you think like, oh, this is what I have learned from that position, which I was not very happy with. But yeah, that's the experience that we always get. So now talking to researchers, when you talk about, they talk about a lot of work life balance, a lot of stress, different ways to manage it. So based on your experience, what you can tell our audience that how they should prepare themselves to handle that stress which it comes with research.
so yeah, I always prioritize, yeah, this work-life balance thing. So the way I do it, I try by all means to make my weekends and holidays my own. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
I leave the office a bit late. I mean, but sometimes I do start working late, so the flexibility of it is also good. But when I leave the office, because I have a family also, when I leave the office, I tend to forget about my laptop and just focus on the family. It's
Mm-hmm.
family time. And then during the weekends, I also take time for myself. Yeah. I've rarely work on weekends unless I have to. There are times when deadlines are around the corner. A deadline is on
Mm-hmm.
Monday, you have to work. But I don't work just for the sake of working on a weekend. I try to live my life, visit family or be with family and friends, and just, yeah, do things that are enjoyable outside of work. And yeah, just do things that make fulfill you also outside of work. I mean, work is great, but you gotta live your life also. So what I do is I get as much time for myself as I can. outside of work. I put in the required amount of work and extra when it's needed. I am
Mhm.
not putting in extra every single day because that extra would be taking away from my personal life. So
Yes.
I do balance it. That's how I balance the work and the life balance. So I take, yeah, the weekends, I use it for the weekends. I use it for myself. And then unless if I really have to work, even though the work is in the back of my mind, sometimes, sometimes you can't shut it off. It's there. And
Mhm.
there's so much I need to do. But I will do as much as I have to do for work, and then I will take as much time as I need for myself also to just keep that the mental health a bit balanced.
Yes,
Yeah, can't be
absolutely.
working all the time. Yeah, so yeah, that's I just I always advise people, take time for
Mhm.
yourself also. If
Yes.
it can wait, you can do it, when you're back to work. You don't have to be doing it because what is the point of me working through the night and not sleeping, for
Yeah.
example. Like the following day now I wasted the whole day
Yes.
because the following day I'll be tired and then you end up
And
repeating the work.
yeah, this is something which we also talk in these conversations, that acknowledging those burnouts, that you are done either physically or mentally for that day. There is no point just sticking around or hanging out in there for no reason. The best performance you can give it when you are rejuvenated, you are ready to acknowledge that, okay, I think I'm done for today. Just go take break, whatever is the best way of rejuvenation for you, either as you mentioned, spending family time, talking to friends, or connecting with nature, whatever works for everyone. They are different ways where people get their energy back, and then when with the fresh mind they come, like they enter the lab next day and now everything is working, whereas it was like 3 days when nothing was working, because what they were missing on is like, okay, now I need break. Those are very important time points where everyone should be aware, because sometimes your friends are there who are be like, figuring these things out, that something is wrong with you or with the way your responses are. So sometimes there are friends, but sometimes if there are not friends, you should be taking responsibility of your own self. As Dr. Hagen mentioned, that you are a human and you have some responsibilities for towards yourself and your family, and making that fine balance between work and family makes you more productive as a researcher, makes you more fulfilling as a human, and that's the complete work-life balance, correct? What we were talking about?
Yeah, no, that is very correct. You need that time for rejuvenation. We really need that
Absolutely.
time. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So with this, we'll say to all our audience that if you want to contact Dr. Hagen, you can directly write to him. If you want STEM for Society to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to help you. You just have to write the name of the researcher celebrity you want to be mentored with, and then we'll contact them. There is the development of this program which we are going through now, so you can be the first batch of that too. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Hygon, for taking time out, sharing your journey, and helping those, struggling brains, where some of them are liking it, some of them are loving it, and some of them are hating it. So, if I can ask at the closing point, the word of wisdom, what we say, the last few words on how they should maintain their sanity being a researcher.
Yeah, so for me it's when it comes to your work, I always tell people put in your 100%, do your best, and then the rest will fall in place. The only thing that you can do is your best. You cannot do more than your best.
Yes.
I
Wonderful.
don't know who said it before, but I always use those words. I think someone said it to me. I just don't remember who, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just do your best and then the rest will follow. And as we spoke, take time for yourself. Take time to rejuvenate. Take time for that mental break. Don't always be focusing on work because that then you're not living your life as a whole, and you need that work life balance. So yeah, my last words would just be do your best, and everything else will fall in place.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, Dr. Hagen, for those closing remarks. And to all the audience, we'll say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Celebrities.